In the top stories, High Court judge calls on Prime Minister Harris. Minister Brantley pleased with film based on Nevis's history, and plans underway for a human rights march in Nevis. The details on these stories and more after the break.
Need a new stove, fridge, bed, or TV? Short of cash? Come to Courts and let's get it done. Trade in your old item for 10% off the purchase of a new one and get what you need now with Courts Ready Finance. So let's get it done only at Courts, bringing value home.
Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Barrage. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris received a courtesy call from His Lordship Justice Trevor Ward QC, the resident High Court judge in St. Kitts, and presented him with 4 law books for the use of the judiciary. In thanking the Prime Minister, Justice described the presentation as, quote, a magnanimous gesture which is indicative of the support that I perceive your administration has for the judiciary and its work, end quote. Referring to one book on sentencing, His Lordship said the presentation is, quote, very relevant and timely. In fact, I'm looking at this particular title. In fact, when I left the office, I was working on a sentence matter, so these books are very relevant and much appreciated, end quote. On Tuesday, August 30th, 2016, the Governor-General, His Excellency Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton, GCMG, CVO QCJP, administered the Oath of Allegiance and Oath of Office to Justice Ward during a ceremony held at Government House. Justice Ward recently worked for 7 years in the Cayman Islands as Senior Crown Counsel and Director of Public Prosecutions, respectively. Acting Premier of Nevis, Honorable Mark Brantley, has applauded British historian and author Dr. June Goodfield for the production of her film The Time Detective, based on her novel Rivers of Time, which is based on Nevis's history. Minister Brantley's praise for the artist came while delivering remarks at her film's debut at the Social Security Conference Room at Pinney's earlier this week. He described it as a historic event and said based on his recollection, the film is the first to be set in Nevis and actually premiere on the island. The minister noted that it would not be possible without Dr. Goodfield, and all praise was due to her. The film was produced and directed by Robin Bextor, director of New Wave Pictures Limited, based in the United Kingdom. In efforts to honor the champions of human rights, a march called International Women's March Global is scheduled to take place this weekend on Nevis. ZIZ spoke with organizing chairperson Carol Willer, who gave an overview of the Women's March Global event.
The Women's March Global that's happening here in Nevis is really part of an international movement inspired by a group of women in the United States, originally in 370 locations around the world now. And people will be gathering Saturday to support women's rights and the rights of all people in response to the rising rhetoric of far-right populism that's occurring around the world.
Willa went on to explain why the march is being held. She added that everyone is invited and even children and pets are welcome.
It's really in the spirit of democracy and honoring the champions of human rights that the march is, in parallel with others fighting for women's rights and human rights around the world. We hope that this we plan it to be a kid-friendly and dog-friendly march. Everyone is welcome. It's nonpartisan and is being held specifically to express our support for women's rights and human rights rather than to criticize individual politicians or political parties.
The route of the International Women's March Global will begin at Café des Arts, proceed along Main Street to the Courthouse Square, and return along Hunkin Drive and end back at Café des Arts vicinity. More than 50 countries in 370 locations are expected to participate in the match. The International Women's Match Global event is scheduled to take place from 9 to 11 a.m. on Saturday in Charlestown. After the break, man charged for swallowing and smuggling pellets of cocaine, and a young teacher builds his own supercomputer. We'll tell you more when we come back. The police have charged the man who swallowed pellets of cocaine. Julian Cathy of Newtown was arrested on Sunday at the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport on suspicion of possession of illegal drugs. According to a police press release, Cathy was charged with possession of cocaine with intent to supply, and importation of cocaine. Cathy was detained on arrival in St. Kitts on suspicion of possession of the illegal drug. Investigations by officers and a medical screening at the Joseph N. Franz General Hospital revealed that he had swallowed more than 70 pellets containing cocaine. He passed the pellets at the hospital under observation. The drugs have a street value of about $630,000 and a total weight of nearly 1 kilogram. The police say additional charges are likely to be laid. Bail was denied and he has been remanded to Her Majesty's Prison. The police have charged a man from St. Paul's for the possession of an illegal gun and marijuana found in a search on Monday night. According to reports, Alex Jules has been charged with possession and possession with intent to supply. He was also charged with possession of an illegal firearm, namely a Springfield 40mm pistol and 10 matching rounds of ammunition. Monday night's search was executed by officers assigned to Police Division B, Defense Force soldiers, and a team from the K9 unit. The K9 unit found the illegal firearm. This makes 2 illegal guns taken off the streets so far in 2017. As part of his reign as Groovy Soca Monarch, Kasim Pemberton, better known as Ruckus H.E., has started the new year with a series of activities aimed at giving back to his community and alma maters. In an interview with ZIZ, Ruckus spoke about the introduction of a new chant competition at the Dr. William Connor Primary School, which coincides with the school's 2017 sports season.
This competition, I decided to start this one because I want to, get the kids involved in being able to be creative when it comes to music, lyrics, and trying to be creative, basically trying to lead them in a way that I went during school as well. And this competition, it will also help them on Sports Day as well, because the winner of this competition will also have an advantage because they're going to be getting points from the competition leading up to Sports Day.
In stating the nature of the rules of the competition, Pemberton explained that it would be one full of fun and excitement.
They just have to make sure that they have good lyrics. They need to make sure that they have a nice melody. They need to make sure that it's catchy. They also need to make sure that they are creative. We're not asking for much. We just want to make sure that they come out and have some fun with it. So we tried not to restrict them too much.
Ruckus, who was also a student at the Bastia High School, said he would also be restructuring a previous chant competition already in place.
I'm also starting this competition in Bastia High School as well. So it's not just Dr. William Connor Primary School, it's also going to be in Bastia High School. Well, I think they already have the competition going, but this time around they are going to be looking forward to a trophy, and we are going to make sure that we incorporate certain things into the one for Bastia High School. We're actually going to be renaming it. It's going to be called the Ruckus H.E. BHS chant competition. All right, so again, they already have the competition, so we're just adding to it.
Groovy Soca Monarch King, Ruckus H.E. A year of planning and hard work has yielded the completion of a custom-built supercomputer by Delroy Delano Boone of Sandy Point. Teacher, dancer, gamer, and IT enthusiast, Boone custom-built the supercomputer, a task he said he embarked upon after building other computers which were not as high-tech as this current build. He spoke with ZIZ about the specifics of the supercomputer.
It's fast. The specs, basically CPU, it's AMD 9598 core processor, running at 4.7 gigahertz, 32 gigs of RAM, have two SSDs, 500 gigs each, 2 terabyte hard drive, which is 4 terabytes. You see here 2 GPUs within the SLI with water blocks. Let's think about a car. You're cooling a car. The same process is here. You have the pump, the reservoir, radiator, fan. The same process. Go in here. So the pump. So basically, the pump pumps the water through the whole system, and the radiator dissipates all the heat. So in terms of cooling, water cooling is the best way to go right now.
Boone said while he is employed full-time as a teacher, working with computers is something he has enjoyed for several years. He highlighted some of his interests.
I taught myself. Basically, I started doing this long time. Like when I was in high school, I used to always really like to do tech stuff, take down stuff, going to computers. Pride in building. This is what I like to do. This is my 6th build. I like to do this as a hobby and something I enjoy doing. Also helping people out with tech stuff, fixing computers, doing all those other stuff. Gaming, which is a big thing for me. I love to game, and also host tournaments. I also own servers.
He said he would like to see technology be taken to a higher level in St. Kitts.
I wanted to really go out there because when you go online and see these people like in the States who have these really amazing builds, I was like, bye. I really need to get on a level why like we in St. Kitts ain't ready yet, you know. And I want that to change. I want really St. Kitts really take it to a next level, take ourselves to a next level in terms of technology. No more air cooling. We gotta get out of that. That's so old age now. Everything gotta be like you gotta get water cooling or something. Because right now every build that somebody building either gonna water cool, liquid cool your processor or something.
Delroy Delano Boone has lectured at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College on the topic of building computers and the use of water cooling systems. He said he would like to see computer building incorporated into the curriculum at schools so persons can gain basic computer building skills at an early age. The Sandy Point Primary School Literacy Week of activities continued on Wednesday with a career day. More in this report. From doctors to firefighters, teachers and chefs, students at the Sandy Point Primary School revealed what they want to be when they grow up as they arrived at school on Wednesday in the uniform of their desired future occupation. Coordinator of the Sandy Point Primary School Literacy Week, Ichel Belboda, spoke with ZIZ about what took place during the day.
Today the children are displaying their professions in which they will become sometime in the near future. And today we had the real professionals coming into our schools and giving the children a little bit about, telling them a little bit about what the profession entails, how they became a part of the profession and why it is important. On the literacy, you must be able to read, write and understand in order to become a professional.
She said the hosting of the career day is important in assisting the children in selecting a career.
I wanted to accomplish the characteristics of the profession so that our children know what is expected of them as they grow older into these different fields, because it's very, very important that they are exposed to them early so that they will be able to choose what they would like to become in the near future, as the experience today will give them that opportunity to be able to make such a decision.
Some of the students spoke with ZIZ about why they chose their specific career.
My name is Solange and I am a chef today. I am a chef because I like to bake and stuff.
My name is Karen Metz. I want to be a firefighter to rescue people. My name is Leslie Daniel and I'm a nurse today. And the reason why I want to be a nurse is because I want to help sick people.
My name is Wanda Mendonga and I want to come as detective to keep the country safe.
My name is Antoine John and I want to become a police officer to own the law and to make people do the right thing.
Belboda credited the parents for taking special interest in Career Day and dressing their children so professionally. The Literacy Week continues with an open day on Thursday and a parade day on Friday. The Sandy Point Primary School's Literacy Week is being held under the theme Swinging to Literacy, Lights, Camera, Read. Reporting for ZIZ News, I'm Carla Barrage. Coming up, Barbados Labour Party displeased with government's performance, and Guyana landlords criticized for disregarding fire safety. The details when we come back. Barbados Labour Party members of Parliament say government isn't addressing the issues facing Barbadians. Here's more.
Members of the opposition Barbados Labour Party refused to debate the holidays with pay bill in the House of Assembly on Tuesday. The decision came after opposition leader Mia Motley sought to raise other issues during the debate and was ordered to sit by Speaker Michael Carrington. In a hastily called press conference, opposition MP Kerry Simmons said the lengthy debate on the bill was an attempt to deflect from serious problems facing the country.
It is our position that in the year 2017, the Barbados Labour Party will be in the vanguard of protecting the people's interests. We will not go through a circus of pretense to create the impression that all is well in the country when we know otherwise. The Prime Minister has been asked in the press conference led by Ms. Motley on Saturday to speak to the nation about some of these concerns. Thus far, he has remained mute. We feel that his remaining mute is a demonstration of malice towards the people. He has not been struck mute by visitation of God. This is a matter about which he knows and about which he should be speaking in the interest of the nation. And therefore we stand in complete solidarity with Ms. Motley, and we want to make that position abundantly clear to the country.
MP Santia Bradshaw also weighed in on the issue.
We have an obligation to the people whom we represent to put their position forward and also the interests of the Barbados Labour Party. But more importantly, we felt that, again, as Mrs. Simmons has pointed out, that we cannot participate in a discussion when there are serious questions on the table regarding the economic future of this country. And it is not that we have not been saying these things for the last few years, but we can see from all of both the local commentators, the regional commentators, the international commentators and credit agencies, that Barbados is closer and closer to a point where there may be no return. And we believe that we will not entertain a Democratic Labour Party administration in making a continuous circus of what we know to be the halls of Parliament. If it is that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance wish to take the country down this road, well, they will do so. But we have made our position clear. Ms. Motley spoke to these issues this morning. Again, the point has to be made. You cannot have holiday with pay if people don't have jobs. And if you don't have job security, then this debate is null and void. So our position, again, is very simple. Deal with the issues at hand. The economic viability of Barbados and the future of Barbados is what every Barbadian is uttering on the tips of their tongues. If you go to Facebook, you go to social media, Barbadians have now not just expressed in writing how they feel, but they have now, I'm sure all of us have heard the voice notes. People are frustrated. They're asking questions about the future of this country. And we believe that 2017 cannot pass us. We're a party that does not have a mandate to be able to do the things which perhaps are on the horizon. So we stand in solidarity with the leader of the Barbados Labour Party on the position that she has taken in relation to how we proceed as it relates as a parliamentary group to handling the business of the country.
The Guyana Fire Service has expressed disappointment with landlords who they say disregard fire safety. HGP's Jevon Vickery has more.
Proprietors of apartment complexes housing more than one tenant are required to seek a fire safety certificate from the Guyana Fire Service. The certificate is renewable annually and is usually provided at the request of the property owners after inspection of the property. This was allegedly not the case with respect to that Cummins Lodge property, which was destroyed by fire at the weekend, leaving more than 50 persons homeless. Fire Prevention Officer Andrew Holder expressed his disappointment at the apparent carelessness of landlords regarding fire prevention.
I am not sure whether this building has such a document. The certificate would mean that the fire service would have done its inspection and certified your building safe for operation. That is not the case with this building. I'm yet to find out why.
Mr. Holder further explained that in many instances, the finished building does not reflect the original plan of the structure. He says this ultimately poses a threat to the premises.
When the plan for these buildings are approved, they come to the fire service for our fire safety requirement. And we would put in those requirements, but then after, subsequent to that, people add on and keep doing additional works to their building.
The fire prevention officer also spoke about the lack of fire hydrants, clogged drains, and the security apparatus, which many times create a setback for firefighters. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Coming up, Hong Kong chief executive says no room for independence, and more deaths in Israeli demolition of Palestinian homes. The details when we come back. Hong Kong's chief executive has used his final annual policy address to say the city could not become independent from China. Tsai Leong is stepping down after a 5-year tenure, which has been marked by anti-China protests. Leong has often been accused by pro-democracy campaigners of putting China's interests above those of the people of Hong Kong. More in this report.
After 5 years as chief executive, CY Leung could not escape protest for his final policy speech. Outside, critics called him a liar who'd failed Hong Kong. Inside, pro-democracy politicians held placards, forcing the hearing's adjournment. This was CY Leung's last chance to revisit his election promises and raise what he believed were his career highlights. Over 2 hours, he listed them one by one, but he couldn't resist a final swipe against the pro-independence movement.
We must clearly recognise that Hong Kong is an inalienable part of our country. This is a legal fact and an internationally recognised political reality.
Last month, CY Leung moved to have 2 democratically elected pro-independence politicians disqualified from their seats. He was successful, and today he had this warning to those campaigning to break away from mainland China.
Under one country, two systems, every one of us has the obligation to fully comply with the basic law and safeguard national sovereignty, security and territorial integrity.
But his speech has been overshadowed by his decision to stand down as chief executive. His term has been clouded in controversy and plagued by protests, the most significant being the pro-democracy protests in 2014, which shut down the city for more than 2 months.
He is one of the most closed and arrogant chief executive in history of Hong Kong. So I don't think he performed a good example for the chief executive.
Since his election, Hong Kong has seen a record number of new pro-democracy parties fanning a wave of anti-China sentiment. That political division continues to plague the city, with some now worried about the next political chapter yet to unfold.
Very worried. Because in Beijing government's mouth, they always say, oh, Hong Kong is in one country, two systems. Hong Kong is a highly autonomy by the Hong Kong people, ruled by Hong Kong people. But no Hong Kong people believe that.
The political landscape is now dominated by what's considered one of the most fiercely contested leadership battles since the 1997 handover. Beijing has approved the resignation of 2 of CY Leung's most senior politicians who run for chief executive. The people of Hong Kong will have their say when they go to the polls in March. Sarah Clark, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
The Israeli army is continuing with its demolition of Palestinian homes in southern Israel. An Israeli officer and an Israeli Palestinian have been killed in confrontations. The government says the homes have been built without permission, but the Israeli Palestinians say they have little choice. Here's more.
They have roots here, but in a matter of minutes, their homes were destroyed. These are Israeli citizens of Palestinian origin known as Bedouin.
This is demolition, killing and displacement and destruction. We saw everything criminal today. They just want the land. They want to establish a Jewish town on our rubble.
The government says the homes were built without permits and are therefore illegal. But the villagers say their requests for permits have always been denied. The case has been in the court since the 90s and has been appealed several times. In November, the court finally ordered the demolitions, and on Wednesday, the army arrived. Israeli police say in the confrontations that followed, a man rammed a group of police officers with his car, killing one of them. Police shot the driver. The legal centre Adala says it's spoken to eyewitnesses from this village who say that they refute the claim from the Israeli police that the man intentionally rammed his car into the group of officers. They say the officers shot first, he lost control of the car, and that's when he hit the policeman. The villagers say the state discriminates against them because they are Bedouin.
It is inconceivable that they do this to us. They need to give us land to live on. I am not an animal, I am an Israeli citizen.
Israeli Palestinians say that the village was demolished to make way for a new Jewish community to come in, citing an example of the prejudice of Israel towards its non-Jewish citizens. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, Al-Hiran.
Up next in sports, West Indies cancel tour to Pakistan and various countries get ready for Africa Cup of Nations. Stay tuned.
Need a new stove, fridge, bed, or TV? Short of cash? Come to Quartz and let's get it done. Trade in your old item for 10% off the purchase of a new one and get what you need now with Quartz Ready Finance. So let's get it done only at Quartz, bringing value home.
West Indies' proposed tour to Pakistan for 2 T20s in mid-March is off the table, multiple sources have confirmed. The WICB rejected the PCB's proposal for the tour after receiving advice on security from the Federation of International Cricketers Associations. The two boards, however, continue to discuss the possibility of 2 T20 internationals in Florida on March 19th and 20th. It is understood that earlier this week, the West Indies Players Association wrote to FICA seeking advice on the current security situation in Pakistan. In its report, FICA warned that the risk level in Pakistan remains at an extremely elevated state and that an acceptable level of participant security and safety cannot be expected or guaranteed. Earlier this month, FICA's report on player safety and security strongly discouraged players from traveling to Lahore for the Pakistan Super League final scheduled for March 5th. According to the proposal, Lahore was likely to host the 2 matches on March 18th and 19th, followed by 2 matches in Florida, which are still being discussed and are likely to go ahead. Ghana is looking to end its losing streak at the African Cup of Nations. The last time the team had any success was in 1982. Hesmar.
Ghana, the Black Stars, have lifted the Africa Cup of Nations no less than 4 times. Yet despite having a talented squad, their last victory came all the way back in 1982. They haven't lacked consistency, finishing in the top 4 positions in the last 5 tournaments without ever sealing the deal. However, the current squad is arguably not as strong as previous ones. There are doubts over the long-term fitness of striker Asamoah Gyan, who failed a medical in 2016, which scuppered a move to Championship side Reading FC, while fellow striker Andre Ayew has only recently returned to fitness for his team West Ham, missing much of the season, whilst his brother Jordan has been out of form at Aston Villa. Led by former Chelsea and West Ham boss Avram Grant, they line up in Group D alongside Egypt, Mali and Uganda. With Egypt likely to be a major threat in the group, they know 3 points in their opening fixture against Uganda is a must.
Meanwhile, Uganda is preparing to make its return to the Africa Cup of Nations after almost 40 years. The country finds itself in a tough group alongside Ghana, Egypt and Mali. Uganda is also the only East African side to have qualified, further evidence of a worrying trend for the region. Al Jazeera's Andy Richardson reports from Port Gentil in Gabon.
After all but 4 decades away, Uganda are back at the Africa Cup of Nations. Idi Amin was in charge of the country and occasionally training sessions when the country last qualified in 1978. Uganda reached the final that year only to lose out against hosts Ghana. The footballing gods have conspired to throw the 2 teams together again 39 years later.
We have watched 19 Africa Cup of Nations since 1978 on television. Now we are there. Coming back is not an easy step, but I believe that we have prepared very well.
And while Uganda will end their Cup of Nations exile at the newly built Port Gentil Stadium, East African football does appear to have been left behind by the rest of the continent.
Uganda are the only East African country to have qualified for this tournament, and there hasn't been an East African winner since Sudan took the title back in 1970. The region hasn't even hosted the event since Ethiopia did so back in 1976, and that won't be changing anytime soon, with Cameroon, Ivory Coast and Guinea the next 3 host nations.
This Ugandan sports writer told me that despite the team's recent success, he worries about his country's lack of investment in football.
Most of the players that have come through Uganda have been more by accident. We've not really put structures in place to really help players come through. We have academies, so-called academies, that actually can't really operate optimally because the facilities are so bad.
The Confederation of African Football say that while they can offer some financial and technical support, individual countries also need to up their game.
The West and the North, to a certain extent, are ahead in terms of, I wouldn't say quality, because quality is everywhere, but in terms of representation and performance at the Cup of Nations, yes, there's a lot of work to be done from that perspective, and that work belongs to the member associations together with the Confederation to improve the results at the highest level.
It all means for now this team is representing not just a country, but an entire region of Africa. Andy Richardson, Al Jazeera, Port Gentil, Gabon.
When we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping the top stories. High Court judge calls on Prime Minister Harris. Minister Brantley pleased with film based on Nevis's history. And plans underway for a human rights march in Nevis. And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Barrage. Goodbye.